and the scenery was very comparable to Colorado weather in the winter.
Okay.
And we were there most of the winter, springtime. But I guess when I say hot, I mean like very active with,
Yeah.
Right.
So
okay.
it's scary to have to run to a bunker or, be at somewhere new and not know where to go. But after a certain amount of time being in Afghanistan and dealing with that every day, you kind of can't be scared anymore because you got to have an acceptance of, well, if it's going to happen today, it's going to happen today. There's nothing I can do about it. And if I worry about it, I'm not living my life. So.
Yep. You'll curl up into a ball and you won't be able to even do any of your duties. You just have to kind of, hey, this is it. This is what I'm here for. Yeah.
Exactly. And, I wouldn't change it for the world because, I got to do so much stuff. I really came out of my shell. I didn't know the things I was capable of doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing to me looking back on it now. I'm like, wow, I went through that, But around February, we left in November of 2010. Around February, I got to go home on leave. And my husband picked me up from the airport, and, he just kind of seemed off. And we went home, and I was like, well, what's going on? Why is all your stuff packed? And, I just haven't really settled in yet. He had moved in with one of our friends to try to save money, so I was paying them money every month for rent and, taking care of most of our other bills. He was working, but I definitely made more money than he did.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
we lost her. We'll be back in a moment.
Did we get kicked off?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it dropped us.
Yep.
What did you hear last?
That he was, so you were basically supporting everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you were the one still, he had a job, but you were still making most of the money.
And I was going to ask you, where was he living? In Denver?
Yeah, he was in Denver.
Okay.
He had wanted to come to Fort Polk, but I told him, no, you're going to be here by yourself.
Yeah, that would be rough.
Yeah, his wife, his ex-wife didn't want to let him bring the kids to Louisiana, so I was like, you don't want to be away from your children. It'll just be easier if you're here.
Yeah.
So when I went back to Colorado, that's when I had found out he was living with another girl, and she was pregnant with his kid. And the money that I was sending him to help with his boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I ended up staying with one of my...
It just bothers me so bad that he convinced you to marry him before you left. So then he could just be with somebody else. Yeah, dude.
And it's crazy because when I was there and I pulled the phone records and I saw the number that he called every day and I called her, I was like, hey, yeah, this is his wife. And she's like, oh, are you back in town? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, why are you talking to my husband? And she's like, oh, well, turns out he told her it was a contractual marriage to get benefits and extra pay. And so she had no idea. She thought it was just like a paper marriage.
Yeah.
And that he was free to do whatever he wanted to do. So
because that's what he told her, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I, before I left Colorado, I went and I closed all my bank accounts, opened my own personal stuff, had all my pay transferred, canceled all the cards, and just cut him off. Yeah. So
after everything that you're going through too, it just.
That's what I said too. I mean, because I kind of knew something was up because he just wasn't calling me as much as he used to, or answering me when I called him. I'm like, I'm in Afghanistan. You can answer the damn phone.
Yeah.
But I get back to my unit and I just try to hold it in. I don't say anything. I just keep trying to go about my life. And then he tells me that he's going to call my commander and tell him that I cut him off, that I'm not paying him any money anymore.
Good. Yeah. Your commander better have said she did the right thing.
He did, but the Army has very specific rules for this. So I had to, by Army law, pay him half of my housing allowance.
Because
the whole time we were married
in a house you got together, or what?
Yes.
Okay.
So
it was contractual, meaning his whole purpose in the first place was then something was on paper, so then he could still. But
he didn't bother to mention that to you.
So for about a year and a half, I had to pay him $600 a month, just until the divorce was final, even though we had a separation agreement.
So stupid.
Yeah, it really was. And I refused to give him any money. So instead I paid his child support, his car insurance, and his phone bill, because that equaled to be about $600.
Yeah.
And I had to pay a phone bill anyway. So I just kept him on my plan and kept him on my car insurance. And it was really bad. And, I was really cynical afterwards. And when I got back from Afghanistan, I was very, I don't know how to say it, but I was very promiscuous, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because I was so confused, and I'd only been with like 3 guys my whole life. And, what have I been wasting my time on if this is everything that's going to get me from it is betrayed or abused or whatever.
That sucks.
So I finally opened up to my sergeant and a couple of my bunk mates, and it just really brought us closer because I don't know why I didn't want to say anything, but it really helped a lot, and they were there for me a lot, and the jokes were made about, I'm a sniper, right? And
of course. Like, hey, we could take him out and no one would know.
Yeah. And we just kept on living, in Afghanistan, doing our thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Memorial Day, May 31st, 2011, we went out.
It's so shitty that you had to deal with like that controversy and then go back to Afghanistan. And it's like from one shitty situation to another.
Yeah.
How did you keep it together? I mean, I know you got some camaraderie, right, with your bunk mates and all that kind of stuff. But how did you mentally what do you tell yourself every day when you're in a situation like that? Like, how do you get through?
I just kind of had to let it go. And it was so hard to do, but I was pretty broken for a while.
What's your other choice? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say I just went through the motions for quite a while, maybe a couple months after I got back. Just get up, go through the motions, just because you have to. I couldn't stop. There was no...
Right.
Other people needed me, and I had to keep going for them, too. So we went out on the 31st of May like any other day. It was a holiday, and the command team wanted to try to see everybody that day. So we had plans to go to all 4 of our little operating bases. We went to one. We sat there for a little while, and I remember laughing and joking, and I'd bring a book, and you're not supposed to really read because you're supposed to be on guard all the time, but it was so commonplace now, nothing ever happened really, that you just get bored and Lord forbid you fall asleep. And at this time I was a driver, so I had to be alert in case we had to move. We were driving to our second stop. It's called Baraki Barak, and it was a road we drove all the time, almost every day. And that day our commander was on leave, so it was just our sergeant major, and he was like, I think I want to be the lead vehicle instead of the tail vehicle for once, and so we switched around. Normally I would have been the third vehicle, and the people who were in the first truck would have been in the back vehicle.
Okay.
So we're driving, and out of nowhere I just see a puff of smoke next to the vehicle in front of me, and then I see it drive off the road into a building. And at this point, my sergeant major, he was my truck commander. I always drove for the sergeant major. He yells, "Stop." And it took me a while to just completely trust him. But when he told me to do something, I did it immediately. I didn't ask anything. You just stop, you hit the brake. Mm-hmm. And he had us stopped behind, like I was in an open space where there was open field to the left of me on my side of the truck. And I can just hear the chatter on the radio. Was that an RPG? Did we just run over an IED? Mm-hmm. We didn't really know what was happening. Yeah. And then my gunner, he's like, I see it. It was an RPG. Can I have permission to return fire? So the other truck's gunners were calling back, the shooters and the kids. So, of course, our rules of engagement, we can't return fire if there's children.
Yeah, right.
So we couldn't do anything except for be sitting ducks, pretty much.
And the cowards...
that's what they do.
Yeah, that's what they plan.
Yeah. They shoot right into their own people and knowing that you're not going to engage because, oh, dude, it's so horrible. It's so horrible.
So it's a little hard for me to talk about this still, but
it's all good.
It's all right.
Yeah. My sergeant major, he tells me to back up and get behind this wall, so at least I have some kind of cover. I'm still sitting in the front of the truck, and he jumps out, runs over to the other truck to try to figure out what's going on. And at this time, I can hear the trucks behind me saying, "Are they okay? What's going on? Nobody's moving." The medic gets out. We had 2 medics at the time, Curtis Wood and Justin Bogeyvac. And they run out. They get the guys out of the truck. It was our Sergeant Gallardo, our gunner, Nathaniel Messner, and then our driver was Richard Emmons, and he was also our commo guy, and they had an interpreter in the car or in the truck also.
Okay.
So they get the guys out, and then I see them pull Emmons out, and I can see the blood, but I'm like, he's fine, he's fine. So they get him out. I can see the medics working on him. The sergeant major runs back to the truck. His hands are covered in blood, and I just hear him say, "Sophie, get in the back." And he never called me Sophie.
Yeah.
Get in the back until I tell you it's okay to come up front. And I hear him get on the radio and call for Alisea, which was a guy in another truck, calling the medevac. So I'm in the back of the truck. The gunner's up top. I can just hear him screaming. I can still see him. Let me get him. And I'm just scared, but I'm calm, if that makes sense. I'm just waiting for somebody to give me an order to execute something.
Right.
So I can hear him over the radio calling in the medevac, and we're right by the medevac base. Like, literally, we could have drove there in 10 minutes. It took them 30 minutes to get to us through the helicopter. We had to pop smoke 5 different times.
Oh, my gosh.
They went to the wrong place. So I always felt like that had something to do with why he passed. But
the amount of time,
Yeah. They had enough time we called ahead to the cop Barak, and they sent out a platoon. And it was like the movies. You know how in the movies you see the street and it's hot and the steam is rising and you can see people running through it and it looks like a mirage. That's how it felt. Like, that's how it looked. They were just running to us to try to help us pull security, whatever they needed to do. And they were there for a while. And once the helicopter came and took Richie away, we all got back in the trucks and we drove the fastest we ever could have drove to Schenck, which was where the medical base was.
Okay.
So we pull up and the sergeant major gets out. And as he's getting out, the commander comes, but not our commander because he's on leave, but the commander of the medical people comes and he's like, he didn't make it. And so I was like, what did he say, Sergeant Major? Did he say he didn't make it? And he's like, no, don't worry. He's fine. And so I get out of the truck and everybody's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I swear to God, I just heard him say he didn't make it. And then when they came out and confirmed that, that Richie had passed, we all just kind of shut down.
Yeah.
And The hardest thing for me was seeing everybody's raw emotions.